Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Artus Muega, and you can call me Mike. I think some of you, or probably most of you, I've already met for my past two webinars on values education in the home environment. This is my last webinar, and I've been tasked to talk about values education in its integrated form. That is to say, it's going to be a comprehensive type of values education. I shall have more to say about this, okay, after going through the preliminary parts of my presentation. There are a number of basic things that I should like to discuss with you before I start addressing the question in what form should it come, what should be its content, and how should it be administered, or how should it proceed. Okay, that thing that we call integrated values education in the home environment. That is actually a big term, because we are talking about a lot of values, not just a small set of values to introduce to young children in the home environment. And as you know, there probably are only two, okay, or no, a few people who will help each other, okay, administer the so-called integrated values education in the home environment. But in some homes, there can only be two parents, or okay, it could be more difficult if there's only one. No, if there's just the solo parent to undertake the home values education program of to administer the values education program in the home environment of young children. So allow me now to present to you, okay, the slides that I prepared. I think there are only 6 or 7 slides for this webinar. So this is not going to be a long talk. Okay. The title of my presentation is Going Full Circle: Integrated or Holistic Values Formation in Home-Based Education. Well, I would like to begin with a question. What values to learn in the home-based values education? You know, it's extremely difficult to answer this question, or to process the answer to this question without first, okay, looking at the sort of values that we are learning, or that we are teaching. If we are the teachers, we are teaching to young children in the school environment. So it's important that we look first at the curriculum, okay? And what we have in our curriculum are subjects like science, mathematics, social studies, art education, physical education, uh, the MAPE, okay, etc. So these are some of the things that we learned, for example, in the subject ESP, or the so-called Edukasyon sa Pagpapakatao, which is the subject the subject, okay, for values education in Philippine public schools. We don't call it moral education or character education, but from time to time we are using the generic terms like values education, character education, to refer to the ESP. But for some reasons, our system decided to go for the use of the expression edukasyon sa pagpapakatao. Okay? Now, I'm not implying that I'm an opponent of the use of this term. I could let this through, okay, without raising, okay, difficult problems about this expression. So just allow me now to say that in addition to the moral values that students learn in the subject ESP, okay, they also learn the Makabayan values. Again, those moral values that students learn in the ESP are honesty, kindness, compassion, and even citizenship. Okay, if you remember, but on top of these values are the larger values, which are called the Makabayan values. And again, these are the following: makatao, makakalikasan, makabansa, and makajos. The ESP is supposed to be anchored on these major values, which are expected to be in possess no, which are expected to be successfully transmitted to young children after high school. Okay, so there seems to be a suggestion that you are lacking in values education if you don't have one of these Makabayan values. There, there is also a suggestion that a good Filipino is someone who is makatao, makakalikasan, makabansa, and makajos. I am not going to impeach these values today. I'm not going to raise any issue over this. Just no, allow me to say that these are some of the values that students are expected to learn in the ESP. But ESP is not the only subject that we have in our curriculum. We have the science and mathematics, but we don't teach moral values. Well, probably from time to time, the teachers of science and mathematics would mention some important moral values when teaching, in the course of teaching, or in the course of disciplining the students of science and mathematics. But that is not the central concern of science and math education. Science and math education are primarily big on certain forms of thinking like analytic, interpretive, inferential, and reasoned thinking. Already, I have mentioned all these expressions, okay, that name several intellectual values, okay, which we learn or which we teach as teachers in science and mathematics. And if I may add, a healthy dose of skepticism is also of value when doing science and mathematics. Okay, in social studies, okay, probably one of the first things that come to mind when we encounter the expression social studies or araling panlipunan is citizenship or good citizenship. Citizenship is also a certain kind of value. As you can see, if we are not, no, if we we would say citizenship is a worthless thing, then probably it makes no sense. It's not going to make sense to study citizenship in social studies, much less in the ESP. But citizenship is a central concept in Araling Panlipunan, and well, probably we could say even in the edukasyon sa pagpapakatao. Another area of study in our curriculum where certain values are learned is the so-called art education. Okay, and creative thinking is central to the business of art education. It's not just a simple study of the essence or the essences of beauty. We always hear teachers of art education saying that creative thinking, the teaching of creative thinking, is one of the central concerns of art education. And that, of course, is a good thing. But there probably are a number of values that we need to name or articulate, okay, in art education. In my first webinar here, I said that there are things that we call multiple intelligences. There too are things that we could call multiple creativities. But I said, rarely do we talk about multiple creativities in art education. In fact, okay, in fact, a number of students of arts or art education, I have noticed, are not familiar with the so-called multiple creativities. There are several names that could be used to refer to the concepts of multiple creativities, but for our purposes, allow me to use these familiar expressions. Okay, create. No, these are no, these are some of the forms of creative thinking. Having the ability to see the ideal. Okay, this could be exemplified by the kind of thinking that the likes of Plato, even Karl Marx, uh, Jesus Christ, Saint Augustine, and other idealists had in mind. Okay, they don't see things in the material world. What they see in their mind is the ideal situation. Of course, they could tell what the situation is, but they are not. They are not often. They are not happy with what they see. So what they have in mind is something like a, an ought case. This is how things ought to be. Okay. Now, if you are lacking in the ability to see the ideal, then no, if you are a leader, probably you won't be able to tell the situation in which you would like to bring your people so that they could live a better life. You won't be able to picture to yourself an ideal situation for your people or for your followers or constituents. Also, the ability to be observant is another form of creative thinking. It's just difficult to figure, what might be needed if you are not observant enough. Well, we could say that the mere fact that there is such a word as observant, suggests, it suggests, the word itself suggests that there are people who are not observant. This reminds me of a story about Walt Disney, who one day brought his daughter to a park, and he had noticed that the facilities in the park are not in good condition, and it seemed to him that only young children were the ones who were enjoying the park, and he thought to himself that what if he thought to himself, what if he could come up with a park in which both the adults and the young ones could enjoy their time in that place. So that thought, after having observed a dilapidated, a park which was in bad state, that observation gave rise to what was later to be called the Disneyland. Another form of critical thinking is the ability, to put things creative, I should say. Another form of creative thinking is that ability to put things together. Not all of us are good at putting things together. Makikita rin naman natin to kahit sa pagsusulat, no? May mga writers or beginning writers, no, who would do research, they would come up with pieces of information, and they would have a hard time putting them together. But there are those who are really, really good at at articulating the connections between pieces of information that would appear to be unrelated from the vantage point of someone who is not good at putting things together. There's another term for this, synthesizing. You synthesize, different or separate things, discrete, or disparate units. No, but you could do that only if you see some connections between them. But there are those who are not good at seeing connections between things. Also, there's the so-called ability to see what others couldn't see. From time to time, people would call this kind of creativity, okay, would refer to this creativity as the creativity of the rebel. A rebellious mind, that is creative, would see truth in what appears to be a complete falsehood. He might also see something that is of value in what appears to be a complete garbage. So I don't know, okay, if some of us are, are rebellious in a creative way. And there's another form of creativity, and that is of, okay, being able or having the ability to simplify what appears to be complex. This form of creativity, is the one that has been always tied to uh, to the mind of Albert Einstein, because Albert Einstein was so good at reducing what appears to be a complex thing into a simplified or simple model, something that could be grasped easily. And again, not too many people now have that kind of mind now, which is well developed, such that it's capable of being able to reduce things into their simple form when no they appear, no even if they appear to be complicated matters or complex matters. Now, open-mindedness could be seen down there in my slide. I didn't assign it under any subject, okay, because I believe that open-mindedness is something that is of value across the curriculum. Okay, it's as important as its role in in science and mathematics, okay, when it is applied in social studies, ESP, art education, even in physical education. Okay, open-mindedness is something that is of value. But we have here, okay, a very big question. What values to teach, okay, in a holistic values education? In our first webinar, I said that holistic values education is broad in scope, it's comprehensive, and for that reason, a holistic values, okay, has many, okay, has actually numerous contents. Just look at the curriculum, okay, in school. We have science, mathematics, social studies, art education, and there are many teachers who would take turns teaching the students in different areas of study. But no, even if we don't call them values education or ESP subjects, because they have their own name, science, math, social studies, art education, all the same. No subject in our curriculum could run away from values education, because there are certain values that students must adopt or must embrace, okay, in every subject, okay, if they want to excel in this, in any of the subject that they study. There are things to value. Well, we could no thus say that no student, okay, could seem to run away from any could run away from values education. Every student, okay, is bound to learn something, okay, that is of value in a certain subject if that student would take the subject seriously. Now let's go back to my big question. This is the first one. What values to teach in a holistic values education? We could say that our curriculum is a holistic curriculum, okay. It's comprehensive enough because it covers a large set of values. Okay. Now, I would like to adopt, okay, those values that we have found in the curriculum, but let me give them another name. Under ESP, what we learn are moral values. Under science and mathematics, basically intellectual values. But of course, I would like to believe that intellectual values are likewise taught in in the ESP or in values education. I don't think that there's a teacher of values education or ESP who would say, I don't actually value intellectual values in the ESP. Because, if you are a human being, one of the things that define you, okay, one of the things that separate us from the animals is our having the capability to think in an analytic fashion, okay, having the ability to make interpretations, to draw, okay, inferences, to carry out reasoned thinking. These these ideas, okay, analytic thinking, interpretive thinking, inferential thinking, and reasoned thinking are human ideas, so to speak. We don't apply them to turtles and cats and dogs and doves. We don't say that dove is highly okay is highly capable of analytic thinking, that a turtle is capable of distinguishing between liberal education and general education. No, these values, okay, actually no values apply to turtles and cats and other animals. I haven't seen a turtle deliberate whether he or she should stay in this place, okay, or in that place. Valuing does not apply to animals. Only humans, okay, are capable of valuing. So values likewise are things human. Social values, okay. Citizenship is an example of a social value, and we learn social values again in a holistic values education. Now I'm thinking of values education as not just as a subject. It's actually something that happens across the curriculum for me this time. Okay, that's the context of this is the context in which I am using the expression values education, because in a short while we are going to talk about values education as it happens in the home, as it should happen in the home environment. Another set of values that we learn in school is the so-called aesthetic values. And again, I've already mentioned some of these, okay, which are the multiple creativities. They are of value because we believe that they are important, okay. Imagine if you're not capable of seeing, okay, what appears to be a better thing or seeing the ideal. Imagine if a leader is not an observant person. Imagine, okay, if you are a leader who is incapable of putting things together, what have you got to lose? A person, okay, who is not capable of simplifying what appears to be a complex thing could perhaps lose a lot of things. And if you are good at this, you could perhaps gain a lot of things. Okay, not just okay for yourself, but also for the advancement of your community. There are other values again that we could learn in the school environment. Okay, these are values that many, no, probably all teachers would promote: open-mindedness, skepticism, discernment, and mindfulness. There are many others. Okay, now don't be worried about the term skepticism. Okay, we can't afford to be credulous. Okay, where we should be skeptical. If somebody again, if 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 an elect no if a candidate is trying to claim that he will make a good leader, okay, while he is trying to convince the voters to support him so that he could occupy an elective position, it is best, to approach the matter with an open mind. It's better to be skeptical than to be someone who would believe that person right away, even if there is no sufficient evidence for his claim that he will make a good leader of his or her society or of his or her would-be constituents. So skepticism, a healthy dose of which is an important value. We don't want, okay, to turn out students who are not capable of subjecting, okay, someone's claim, a thought or a theory or anything, okay, who is not capable, students who are incapable of subjecting the object of their curiosity to methodic skepticism or methodic doubting. It's a good thing, you know. And again, I'm talking about a healthy dose of skepticism. Okay. So let me raise another big question. Moral values education, intellectual values, moral values, I should say, intellectual values, social values, aesthetic values, and other values in my list, okay, are all important, right? So if all of them are equally important values, what does this imply for holistic, home-based values education? Sabi natin holistic, o di ibig sabihin inclusive yung home-based values sa education. Okay, I should like to draw your attention to the idea that home-based values education is actually a big task because it's a comprehensive activity. It involves not only the teaching of intellectual values or a small set of moral values. There are many different types of values to teach in the home environment. And think about this, okay? In school, where values education happens across the curriculum, okay, trained teachers would take turns emphasizing or teaching, okay, different sets of values. How many teachers in one day would take turns? 8, 9, or 10 teachers would take turns, okay, teaching students different sets of values. Now, I I am not yet talking about a single activity in which all the different types of values, okay, could be found. It's something that they did in Finland. It's currently done in Finland, but I'm not saying that with finality that that shift, okay, the shift to that form of education proves successful. Okay, we have yet to know. It's an ongoing experiment. Okay, their version of holistic education, okay, comes in the form of 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 an educational situation in which a certain thing is being introduced to students, and that thing, okay, includes different sets of things to learn in no, from different subjects. So in effect, if you are teaching physics, you are not just teaching, you are not teaching physics alone, okay. You could also be particularly interested in language, in the in value judgments or the worth of the things that you study in physics. So if you are interested in language, then there is language education in physics. And if you are interested in the worth of the things in question in physics, you have also entered the realm, okay, of values education, not only science education. That is not my context of holistic education at this point, not my idea of holistic education at this point. It's just, you know, because it's just difficult to think of a single activity that includes many different values, the many different values that we have just mentioned. And again, these are moral values, intellectual values, social values, aesthetic values, and other values. And moral values, okay, the expression refers to many examples of moral values. The same goes for intellectual values. It's not just a singular thing. There are many of them. So look at this. How could you teach them in one go? It's difficult. The task of teaching, okay, the task of administering home-based values education is actually an overwhelmingly huge project. Okay, think of the situation of the parents. There are only two of them usually, and a solo parent, okay, may have a will obviously have a bigger problem if they are going to do exactly what is being done in school, teach the exact same values, okay, the same way that students learn in school. But then again, should we really depart from what is being learned in school, depart from the values that are being acquired and developed in school? My answer to that question is no. Okay, but then no. For now, let's focus on the situation of the parents. Okay, uh, home education is also parental education, but in this case, we are talking about values education. So, home values education is also parental values education. And again, in the house, we only have the parents to do everything if we are going to be faithful to the so-called consistency of values education between school and home environments. That's a lot of work to do. So should we embrace one of the mechanisms that I discussed in my first talk? Okay, now the mechanism of consistency. Should values education in school be consistent? Should it cohere with values education in the home environment? So that's the very big no, that's a very is that a very big question? I said here, there's a very big question. How then could we make home values education comprehensive enough to cover the sort of values students learn in school? This question is related to what I have just raised a while ago, but this one, okay, is a loaded question. It takes the question takes it for granted that home-based values education, okay, uh, should be consistent with the kind of values students learn in school. Instead, okay, this question is asking, okay, how could we possibly make home-based values education comprehensive enough to cover the sort of values that students learn in school? So think about that. Okay, it's really a big project. There are only two persons, the mother and the father, okay, who will attempt to mimic probably what is being done in school. Or if they cannot mimic what is significantly mimic what is being done in school, well, at least what they're doing for their children's values education should be quite consistent, should be consistent with what is being done in school. I have an answer, okay, to that question. And the keyword is culture. I am particularly interested in culture because if you are going to look, okay, for a short story or for an activity like, okay, essay writing, okay, as devices that we could use to teach holistic or integrated values education in the home environment, okay, lalabas na na nakakatawa yung example because these are specific activities which are narrow in which could be narrow in scope, such that they cannot possibly satisfy the demands of that so-called holistic values education because there are too many values involved there. How could you show all those values that I have just presented in a one page short story? How could you show all those values that I have just mentioned in a two-page essay that a young kid might want to write? It's a difficult task. So for this reason, I am turning my attention to the idea of culture. Why am I talking about culture? Because culture, just like values education, just like the expression curriculum, is also very wide in scope. It covers a lot of things, not just the arts, okay, not just religion. Okay, it covers a lot of things. Okay, now before we say more about that, let's attempt to define the concept of culture. It's very common for many for most of us to define culture as a way of life, but I'm not comfortable with that definition of culture. But perhaps, okay, we could excuse ourselves, okay, if that's all we got for a definition of culture. But come to think of it, saying that culture is a way of life might not be good enough, okay, an answer to the question, what is culture? Because even ants have their own way of life. Even termites have their own way of life. But then again, we do not apply the word culture to ant life or to termite life. Culture is often, no, said to be a human thing, just like the word value. Only humans have culture. Although some scientists would dispute that, okay, but we are not too many people are quite convinced that some animals, okay, are no have also their own culture. You will no you will see what I mean in a short while when I say culture is a human thing. But I could say right away that it's a human thing because wala namang eleksyon ng langgam, no, at saka mga anay. Walang politika ang mga langgam at anay. Walang religion ang mga langgam at anay, at no wala ring languages ang mga anay at saka langgam at mga bubuyog. Tayo meron. Ah, Meron tayong may Ilocano language, merong Tagalog, merong Bisaya, okay, etc. Walang Tagalog na langgam o o anay, no, o bubuyog. So, yan yung dahilan, no, kung bakit uncomfortable ako na sabihin na ang culture ay way of life. I have to add, okay, some more ideas to that short definition. So you see here, no, in addition to ways of life, I said it could also, no, it's also partly, no, a way of viewing things, or it includes the idea of viewing things, or way of viewing things, and way of behaving in a given situation. And these ways of of this the way of life, no, viewing things and behaving in a given situation could vary from one group of persons to another. Israelis, okay, we could say, wouldn't behave in a no in the exact same way that Filipinos would behave in a similar situation or in the same situation. We have different ways of responding to, okay, to different things, and and that makes no, culture possible for every group of individual, for every group of people who would share, no, certain ways of behaving, viewing things, or certain ways of living their lives. In addition, we could likewise say that culture, okay, is not just a way of life; it's also a product, no, of the human beings' interactions with various elements in their environment. And what could be these products? Okay, number one, okay, politics. And again, ants and termites and bees do not have politics. Now, you're probably asking, what is politics? Okay, I'd say that it's a venue where issues are debated on or decided without recourse to violence. Well, there's so much shouting, okay, in politics, no, but that's not what we mean by violence, okay. Violence, no, in the context of my talk is physical violence. The product of the human being's interactions with various elements in their environment may also come in the form of a worldview, our way of seeing things in the universe. Worldview could also be the way we interpret or know the world. Do we have different worldviews? Okay, walang worldview ang mga hayop, no? Pero ang mga tao ay may worldview, no? This is best illustrated by the kind of worldview that a scientist holds, okay, and a religious believer who think that the world was created by God, okay, no, iba rin yung kanilang worldview. Atheists have their own worldview also, okay. So while we are all human beings, we have different ways of seeing or interpreting the world, okay. And worldview again is a product, okay, of our interactions with various elements in our environment. You're probably asking, what are these various elements? Well, it could be the weather or the climate. It could be the terrain of our environment, okay, the location of rivers, the seas, okay, the kind of place where we live. It could be in a valley or it could be in a mountainous, okay, place. These elements contributed to the development of certain ways of life, certain ways of viewing things, and certain ways of, okay, conducting ourselves in a given situation. And language is another product of culture. The same goes for arts. It's a product, okay, of the human beings' interactions with various elements in their environment. The arts of the Spaniards, okay, are probably significantly different from the arts of the Filipinos. Okay, and these arts are likewise products of various elements in our respective environments. Arts in northern Luzon are probably different from arts in Manila. Okay, and morality, okay, is also something that could vary from one group of people to another. And morality, okay, as was suggested a while ago, okay, does not likewise apply to ants and dogs. There are no dogs who are Kantian moralists. There are no dogs who are pragmatists. There are no dogs who believe in the deontological morality. Okay, this applies only to human beings. Culture, in addition, may also include the idea of priorities and values of a certain group of people. The priorities of people who live in a mountainous place, okay, are not identical to the priorities of people who live in the city. Okay? I'm not no we are not going to name the priorities of people who live in the city. Okay, today we are not going to have a long list, but probably, okay, saving food for the rainy season or for busy days is not one of the priorities of people who live in a natural environment that happens to be oozing with food that are readily available to them. They don't need to buy, okay, they don't need to buy a freezer or a big fridge to store their food because the food is all around them, fresh. They don't have to refrigerate their food. Whereas in the city, if you're a busy person, you don't have the time in the world, okay, to go to the grocery stores every day, every afternoon. okay, you would probably think that it's one of no, buying a fridge is one of your priorities if you don't have a fridge yet. So again, okay, priorities and values could vary from one culture to another. It really depends on the kind of situation that we have. Now, let me say that culture is a neutral term. It doesn't mean that no, if a certain group of people has a culture, that culture is a good thing at all times. There is such a thing as good culture, no, and bad culture. Culture is right there in the middle. It's something neutral. So this now brings me to the question, what kind of culture do we have, or what kind of culture should we have in the home environment, so that we could no we could get our children to avail themselves of a good case of home values education. That is the reason, okay? This issue is the reason why I have culture in mind in response to the question that I have just raised a while ago. How then could we make home-based values education comprehensive enough to cover the sort of values students learn in school? If our culture is not in its ideal state, it's not in its best shape, then one of the things that we could do is to re-engineer our home culture, rebuild the home culture so that it becomes responsive to the needs of the students in the area of morality, in the area of intellectual values, in the area of social values, in the area of aesthetic values, and other values. What are their needs? Okay. Well, in the area of moral values, let's say, for example, what we have here are the following values: honesty, kindness, and compassion. Ano ang needs nila? Uh, na mag-develop no, ng honesty, na gawin nilang virtue yung honesty, kindness, and compassion. Maging makatao, makakalikasan, makabansa, makadiyos. Okay? Kung ano man ang definition no, we want them to become makatao, makakalikasan, makabansa, and makadiyos. Also, no, ano ang needs nila no, sa sphere ng intellectual values, na maging highly analytic, no, that they become no, precise with their interpretation of the object of their curiosity, that they become good at inferring. Otherwise, they will make very many mistakes in life if they could not infer from what, okay, the given conditions or situation is trying to reveal. They also need to develop a good case of, okay, critical, or they need to develop no, a good set of critical thinking skills. They should be good at drawing conclusions. So there, okay, we need to re-engineer the culture in our home environment according to the needs of our students. I am mentioning, I said, okay, politics, worldview, language, arts, morality are the products of, okay, of our interactions with various elements in their environment. Because I believe, from where I stand, I believe that these are important components of home and values education. Okay, home values education. Politics, worldview, language, arts, morality. No, wag naman sige, wag nating tawaging components, but these are important factors to consider in values education in the home environment. When I say politics, I do not mean to suggest, okay, that they engage in the kind of politics that our politicians here, okay, that keep our politicians here in the Philippines busy. By politics, no, I simply mean a venue where ideas could be tested, okay, or ideas, no, or issues could be debated on. What kind of issues? Depende. Pwedeng, pwedeng moral issue, pwedeng scientific issue, pwedeng aesthetic issue yung pag-uusapan, no? Kung may disagreement ang nanay at tatay at ang mga anak, no, about their views, okay, ang question ay ganito, ito tolerate ba na mag-express ang estudyante, no, o ang kanyang anak ng kanyang sariling view, no, especially if the view is in conflict with the father's or the mother's or both views. Because there are certain home environment in which children, okay, are not quite used to expressing themselves, okay, when their thoughts are in conflict with the parents' thoughts. But there are also home environments in which it appears that children are encouraged to express themselves even if they are not quite in agreement with their parents. That is also a different culture. Now, there's so much like sociology behind that, but it's not my place today to talk about the sociology behind that that difference. But what I'm trying to say is this: certain cultural practices in the home environment, okay, could lead to certain forms of development, and this development could be something positive or negative, okay, in relation din sa development ng values or morality ng estudyante. Okay? Yun nga, no, yung sinasabi nating politics, kung nakasanayan na sa bahay na pag ang nanay o tatay o ang supposedly, no, ang authority figure sa bahay, no, pag nagsalita at in conflict yung sinasabi niya sa mga anak, no, nakasanayan na ng mga anak, pagdating yan sa trabaho balang araw, no, sa work environment, malamang kung meron siyang, no, kung hindi nag-agree yung bata sa sinasabi ng boss, mananahimik na lang din iyan. Paano nga kung, no, ikakapahamak ng lahat yung paniniwala ng boss? So, pwede nating pag-usapan yan, no, at length, okay, in another forum. But I think you know what I mean. Okay, ang issue lang ay kung pababayaan ba ang estudyante o ang bata na mag-express ng sarili niya kahit naiiba yung kanyang pananaw sa pananaw ng mga magulang. Okay, may politics sa bahay pero gaano kalaya ang estudyante o ang anak, no, na matutong magbigay ng katwiran para sa kanyang mga paniniwala. Hindi po totoo na pag nangangatwiran ng bata ay, no, ay dinidisrespect niya na ang mga magulang. Iba naman yung nagbibigay ng katwiran sa hindi pagbibigay galang sa mga magulang. Okay. World view, how you interpret, okay, the world. I don't know, again, no, kung ano yung worldview na meron sa ibang bahay, but we have our, no, it seems to me that we have a uniform worldview in our house because we are all Roman Catholic believers, and we hold the view that, okay, there was someone who designed, I should say, the universe that we inhabit. That designer is an entity that has, okay, as a super mind, that has an intelligent mind, because if it's not an intelligent mind, then it could not possibly design, no, engineer, no, and, okay, come up with a design, okay, that is as complicated as the universe that we inhabit. But then again, we are not closing, okay, the mind of our children to other possibilities that were articulated by those people who came up with a different, who expressed, no, different worldviews. Okay? So maraming libro, no, na mababasa sa bahay, and I think, okay, we have, no, a huge room for politics, okay, or big space for clashing ideas to be examined in our house. By language here, I do not just mean the kind of medium that we are using. Quality is also an important consideration, okay, and the utility of language when it comes to developing the values of uh, children. Uh, I think you know what I mean, no? Yung pamamaraan natin sa pag-express natin ng sarili natin ay iba-iba, no? At iba-iba rin yung pananaw natin sa mga wika, no, na ginagamit natin. May iba na pag nag-Ingles ang kapwa nila Pilipino ay pinagtatawanan na nila o tinutuya nila, or they subject those who speak in English to shaming. Pero sa bahay, hindi ganon, no. Ang unang tinuro sa bahay sa mga anak ko ay ang pag-iisip at pagsasalita sa English. And then after several years, they were taught how to speak and think in Filipino. Now my children are capable of using English and Filipino to express themselves. It's good, no. I think it's a good approach to language education in the house. And you're probably asking, values education pa ba yan? Oh, this is still part of values education, because language is a value in itself. If language is not a value, then why do we study it why do we have it in our curriculum? Nearly everything actually that we have in our curriculum are things that are of value. That's the reason why we have them in our curriculum. Arts in the house. There's so much arts in the house. There's a big room for arts in the house. Okay. Naalala ko ang sabi ko sa anak ko nung araw, nung bago pa lang siyang gumuguhit, nag-drawing. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Maraming papel dyan, no? Pag nagkamali ka, no? Get another piece of paper and try to come up with something better. That's the kind of approach that I taught her when she's doing her own art, okay, as a beginning artist. That's the kind of approach, okay, that I used when I taught her how to think and write. Don't be afraid to make mistakes when you are writing. Sabi ko sa kanya, sabi ko sa isa kong anak, yung nagsusulat na ng essay, katulad din sa pagdodrawing ang essay writing at the beginning. Nagkakamali ka. And if you make mistakes, it's just fine. Okay? Just proceed and try to fix the problem later. So, okay, how do we, again, I'm going to summarize my talk. The main question in this webinar is, how could we possibly introduce a good case of holistic or integrated values education in the house? We need to fix our culture if it is not in its ideal state. We need to do cultural engineering. If you want to learn more about cultural engineering in the home environment, you may read the book of Eric Weiner titled The Geography of Genius. There, he explained kung bakit merong epistemological or knowledge decline ang modern world. Sabi niya, kumpara sa mga advanced civilization noong araw, iba ang kultura ngayon. Ang kultura ngayon ay ay specialization culture. Nung araw, sabi niya, ang mga leaders hindi katulad ng mga leaders ngayon. Ang leaders noon ay hindi lang scientists. They are also engineers, they are also artists, they are also poets. Okay? Well-rounded noong araw daw ang mga highly creative na mga leaders and leading figures in different environments or eras. But today, okay, the world has changed significantly. But ang puntong ang puntong sinasabi ni Eric Weiner ay ito. If we want to bring back the the, the good things that people, okay, used to enjoy, we need to na nawala na ngayon, we need to fix our culture. We need to re-engineer, we need to rebuild our culture. So, the solution is there. Okay, cultural engineering. If we want to introduce an integrated approach to values education in the home environment, we shall be able to cover a lot of things that are also being covered in school. Okay, if only the culture in the house is responsive or is runs parallel to the culture, to the kind of culture that the school environment is trying uh, to develop, okay, in the formal educational situation. Okay, yun lamang po, I am now ready to answer some questions kung meron. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig at nandito na po ulit tayo sa sa question and answer part ng ating usapin. Meron po tayong ilang katanungan. Ang una po ay nagmumula kay JS Harabe Magilimotan. One of the characteristics of values is that values are caught but not taught. How do we make sure that values are learned by our students, especially during online or modular lessons? Para pong pinapahiwatig ng katanungang ito na mahirap magturo o baka hindi na makapagturo ng values kung hindi po face-to-face ang meeting sa regular classroom. Pero nais ko pong idagdag na na while totoo na values are caught, totoo rin na values could be taught. Pwedeng diretsahang tinuturo ang values, subalit meron ngang kalayaan ang tao na i-adapt o tanggapin ang tinuturo sa kanyang values o hindi. So ngayong online or modular ang lesson sa online, paano nga bang magtuturo ng values? Ang akin pong kasagutan dyan ay dapat mayroon tayong mga pamantayan. At itong mga pamantayang ito ay mga values in themselves. Halimbawa, punctuality. Meron tayong deadline sa mga assignments na binibigay natin sa estudyante. Susundin. Tinuturo natin sa ito, ganun ang isa sa mga paraan para sabihin sa mga estudyante na mahalagang tumutupad tayo sa pinag-usapang deadline. Honesty, dapat ay ine-emphasize din ito sa mga academic works, At ang isa sa mga techniques para ma-internalize ng mga bata yung mga values na itinuturo sa iba't ibang mga exercises, academic exercises, ay yung repetition na technique, paulit-ulit na ginagamit ang mga pamantayang ito hanggang sa maging kaugalian na ng mga estudyante na punctual sila, na honest sila, disiplinado sa paghanap ng mga ebidensya kung meron man silang mga gustong patunayan sa kanilang mga paperwork, sa kanilang essay, kung assignment man ito na nangangailangan ng pananaliksik, yung disiplina sa pagpoproseso ng mga datos. Now, may sinasabi nga sa katanungan na values are caught. Pwede pa rin pong magpakita ang guro ng mga values na gusto niyang ma-catch ng mga estudyante or i-demonstrate sa mga estudyante, Kung gusto magturo ng guro ng punctuality, hindi lang siya nagre-require na maging punctual ang mga bata sa submission ng kanilang mga requirements, kundi ipapakita rin ng guro na timely yung pagbibigay niya halimbawa ng mga panuto ng instructions. At hindi po tulad ng ano no ng guro na magbibigay siya ng instruction ng madaling araw pero ang deadline ay umaga o hapon. Malamang talagang hindi makikita 'yon ng maraming ang mga estudyante no kung madaling araw ibibigay yung instruction sa via private messaging. So, no, gano'n no, maraming pwedeng ipakita pa rin ang guro para no makatch nga ng mga estudyante yung sinasabi nating mga values na dapat ay ma-internalize nila. Yung ikalawa pong katanungan ay how culture affects our values. Napakalawak po no ng tanong na ito, mahirap sagutin pero ito ay mahalagang katanungan. Paano nakakaapekto ang kultura sa ating mga pagpapalaga? Kung ang atin pong pagpapakahulugan ng kultura ay no mga kaugalian no ng isang grupo ng tao, ang kultura po ay nagsisilbing reinforcing element no ng mga para sa development ng values. Kung ang nakakagawian sa isang bahay ay malimit nakikita ng bata no o nararanasan ng bata, hindi po malayo na ma-adapt niya no yung ganitong mga gawi. Halimbawa, pagkatapos sa kumain no sa gabi, dumating na yung mga magulang, kakain sila ng sabay-sabay at hindi pala sabay-sabay yun ang nakaugalian na no kanya-kanyang kain sa bahay at hindi na nag-uusap pagkatapos kumain, kanya-kanya na rin uling trabaho o aktibidades ng mga tao sa bahay. Paano ito makaka-apekto sa value sa formation ng bata? Makikita mo kaagad no kung ano ang mga posibleng epekto nito sa mga bata sa bahay no kung hindi nabibigyan ng pansin ang pag-uusap no. Alam niyo naman kasi no, kung sabay-sabay tayong nag-uusap, kumakain, maraming oportunidad para mapag-usapan ang mga issues na kinakaharap no ng buong pamilya, ng mga magulang, ng mga anak no, issues nila sa eskwela o kung ano yung mga pangangailangan nila no. Kung ito ay paulit-ulit na ginagawa no at nakikita ng mga bata na maraming nasasagot na mga katanungan nila no, natutugunan yung mga pangangailangan nila no, ang madidevelop din na value sa kanila balang araw ay no katulad din yan no, pag nagkaroon na rin sila ng sarili nilang pamilya, hindi nila nanaisin na kanya-kanya silang buhay sa loob ng bahay dahil nakita na nila yung halaga ng pagsasama-sama. At marami pa pong ibang mga kagawian sa bahay no, at katulad nga ng sinasabi ko, ang kultura sa bahay no, kung meron mang mga hindi ka nais-nais na mga elemento ito, ay kailangang i-re-engineer, no, i-revitalize yung kultura. Alamin yung mga hindi dapat, yung mga kagawiang hindi dapat nakikita ng mga bata, no, dahil highly infectious yung mga gawing ito. At ang mga gawi ay bahagi ng kultura. May mga ilan po akong nabanggit na mga elemento ng kultura, sabi nga natin, yung morality, pero hindi morality yung nakikita kundi yung behavior, no, moral behavior, no, or ethical behavior. At kung meron ng problema ay maaaring ma-impluwensyahan nito ang mga bata. Madali pong ma-impluwensyahan ang mga bata, alam po natin ito. So ganun pong naapektuhan ng kultura ang values development ng mga bata. Kung ano ang malimit na nakikita sa mga magulang, nakikita ang mga magulang na palaging nagbabasa at dinidiscuss yung binabasa, pinoproseso yung binabasa, no? At natutuwa ang mga magulang, no? Meron silang nadi-display na satisfaction, no, sa pagbabasa at sa pag-discuss, no, pagdi-discuss no ng mga nabasa o narinig na mga balita. Hindi rin po malayong ma-develop sa mga bata na maging interesado sa ganitong activity. At ito ay may malaking kontribusyon sa development ng pag-iisip, no, o advancement ng edukasyon ng bata sa home environment. So maraming magandang mga bagay na pwedeng ipakita at maaaring merong mga kailangang dapat tatanggalin sa kultura sa bahay. Yung atin pong sunod na katanungan ay what is the difference? Galing po ito, yung ikalawa po ay galing kay Incon Luce Hurolan. Ang ikatlo po ay galing kay Teacher Ayam Dangkalan. Hi, Ayam Dangkalan, Teacher Ayam. Kilala ko po ito si Teacher Ayam, nakikinig ka pala dyan. What's the difference between worldview and belief system? Meron pong overlap, pero mas malawak na konsepto ang belief system kasi hindi naman po lahat ng paniniwala ay tungkol sa world view, no? Kung bahagi ng iyong paniniwala ay yung mga pananaw mo sa lingwahe at ang ibig sabihin natin ng worldview ay yung iyong paniniwala tungkol sa realidad na iyong kinalalagyan, iyon pong belief system na iyon ay iba, no, sa pagpapakahulugan natin ng worldview. Yung pagtingin, no, sa iyong kinalalagyan na realidad. Ano ba ang worldview, no, ng isang taong naniniwala sa Diyos o manlilikha? Ang worldview ng taong naniniwala sa manlilikha ay nagsasabing ang kalawakan, no, ang universe na kinalalagyan niya ay ginawa ng Diyos. At itong worldview na ito, no, ay maaaring kakaiba sa worldview ng mga taong hindi naniniwala o nagdududa kung merong manlilikha. So, yun po ang ibig natin sabihin ng world view. Ang belief system din po ang worldview, pero ang belief system maaaring napakalawak po ang sakop nito, no. Kung ang metaphysics, no, ay yung paniniwala nga sa realidad ay basically world view, meron pa pong ibang mga branches, no, yung belief system. Halimbawa, yung arts. Sa arts, halimbawa, ang naiisip mo ay ito ang nararapat. Hindi po yun worldview, kundi iyon ay ideal ng tao at bahagi iyon ng belief system. So in short, ang belief system ay mas malawak sa worldview. At ang worldview ay bahagi ng belief system. Ang atin pong sunod na katanungan ay nanggagaling kay Swani Maria Sofia Gacus. Good morning, Teacher Swani. Yes, that's true. Yet why are there still culture? No, why are there culture that why are there cultures that thrive? Okay, even if we are now in a modern era, isn't it the case that culture is dynamic and evolving? Siguro ang sinasabi ni Teacher Swani ay merong mga bahagi ang kultura na hindi kanais-nais kasi nasabi ko nga kanina sa lecture na ang konseptong kultura ay neutral. In the sense na kung sasabihin mong kultura, hindi ibig sabihin na magandang kultura kaagad ito, no? Dahil merong bad culture at saka good culture, no? And by that we mean practices madalas, no? Bad practices and good practices, but we use terms the terms culture and practices interchangeably, no, in many situations. Okay, bakit po nagpe-persist, no, ang mga ganong kultura, no, maganda man o hindi? Nagpe-persist ang isang kultura, lalo na yung hindi maganda, dahil hindi ito napapag-aralan ng mabuti at hindi nagdidesisyon ang nagpa-practice ng kulturang iyon na tanggalin natin itong bahagi na ito ng kultura o yung hindi magandang bahagi ng kultura. Iyan ay katulad ng sinasabi ko, sa bahay man or sa eskwela ay nire-re-engineer. At ang nangunguna sa pag-re-engineer niyan, no, nararapat lamang ay ang mga pinuno sa isang institusyon, no. So sino ang mga pinuno sa institusyon, no, ng pamilya? madalas mga magulang, no, alangan naman sabihin natin na mga anak ang namumuno, mas malawak ang karanasan at mas malalim ang kaalaman, no, supposedly ng mga magulang up to a certain extent, no. Mamumuno dapat ang mga magulang, at sa pamumunong yan ay dapat na, no, makita nila kung ano ang mga pwedeng gawin para ma-develop ang kultura sa bahay. Ganon din, no, sa paaralan. Ang mga administrator, sa mga pinuno ay, no, maiging pinag-aaralan nila ang kultura sa school. Kasama na rin yung mga arrangement, no, ng mga halimbawa ng tambayan, ng cafeteria, at saka yung mga kaugalian ng mga tao sa school. Ano pa ba ang mga dapat tingnan? Dapat tingnan din yung nilalaman ng mga chat groups, no, ng mga estudyante sa school, kasi kung minsan may mga nade-develop din diyan, no, na kultura na kung saan ay, no, halimbawa parang normal na nagmumura o gumagamit ng malalaswang salita. Hindi po ito magandang bahagi ng kultura, no. Yung mura ng mura, pwede namang sabihin kung ano yung nararapat, no, yung gusto mong sabihin ng hindi nagmumura. Pero kung titingnan mo po yung chat groups ng ibang mga estudyante, no, ay napaka liberal nila, no, pagdating sa paggamit ng mga hindi naman dapat siguro na ginagamit, o dahil hindi naman kailangan, no, gumamit ng mga ganong salita. Okay? Pero dahil pinababayaan, no, walang attempt na i-re-engineer ang culture. So, yan, no, tulad ng sinasabi mo, Swanee, nape-perpetuate yung kultura. Oo, mag-i-evolve ito kung merong mga gagawing mga patakaran, no, o pamantayan na dapat na dapat sinusunod. Nang sa ganon ay magandang kultura ang ma-develop sa isang institution. Kung, no, institution man ito ng pamilya or institution ng paaralan. O kahit saang institution, no, ang mga pinuno ang, no, dapat nangunguna sa pagbabago para hindi ma-perpetuate nga yung ayaw nating, no, tinutuloy ng mga gawi. Ang sunod po nating katanungan ay galing kay Evangeline Apolonio. Good morning Evangeline. Hindi po ba dapat sa preschool pa lang na simulan na yung values formation? Tama, no? Posible po ba magaya natin yung ginagawa ng mga Hapon na puro character or values formation muna bago formal education? That explains why they are disciplined. Hindi ako makaka-disagree with you, Evangeline, no, sa bagay na ito. Maaga pa dapat ay, no, meron ng values formation even before the children start attending school. Dapat ay nagsisimula na yung values formation. Naalala ko ang isa sa mga values ng pagpapahalaga na tinuro namin sa bahay bago pa, no, sa mga bata, sa mga anak namin, bago pa sila nagsimulang pumasok sa eskwela, ay yung value ng honesty. Ayaw naming nagsisinungaling kasi kung hindi mo siya nakikita halimbawa at tinanong mo, anong special na mga ginawa mo ngayong araw? Gusto mo bang sinungaling yung anak mo, no? Magtatago ng katotohanan. In turn, hindi rin po kami nagsisinungaling sa mga bata. May isa lang na okasyon ako natatandaan na kailangan ko sinungaling, no? Pero dahil kailangan ko talagang magsinungaling. Dahil hindi kabubuti ng mga anak ko, no, yung, no, sabihin ko ang totoo. Isang beses lang, pero, no, ang kaugalian talaga, ang kultura sa bahay ay totoo ang sinasabi. Napakahalaga po niyan. So maaga pa pong tinuturo iyan. Hard work, maaga rin pong tinuturo iyan, no? Pinapakita ng mga magulang na seryoso sila sa trabaho, at pag may ginagawa, no, kung ano man yung ginagawa nila, nakatutok ka doon sa ginagawa mo, hindi kalat ang iyong atensyon. no? Otherwise baka magkaroon ng attention na deficit din, no? O mag-display ng attention deficit ang bata kung nakikita na walang focus ang mga magulang. Meron po ulit tayong isang katanungan mula kay Swani Maria Sofia Gacus. No, one more time, no, from Teacher Swani. Why do you think our values are becoming less positive, even if it's given emphasis in the curriculum? Bakit negative, no, yung mga values? Hindi naman dahil siguro dahil negative ang tinuturo na values, kundi dahil maraming influences, no, mga external influences, lalo na yung social media, no, yung internet, marami diyang mga kailangang i-address na mga concerns or issues. So ngayong nakikita ito at kung tayo ay nagkakasundo, no, na isa sa pinanggagalingan ng mga problema ay yung maimpluwensya na social media, no, marami tayong magagawa bilang mga magulang at bilang mga guro. Katulad ng sinasabi ko, kung magiging bahagi ng kultura na pinababayaan lang yung mga bata na iproseso all by themselves, walang guidance at all, no, from the senior members of their community, ang mga nakikita nila by accident o intentionally binibisita nilang mga videos, no, o kung ano pa man, no, ang binibisita nila diyan sa social media o sa internet, hindi nga malayong may mga ma-develop na mga values na hindi ka nais-nais o hindi consistent sa value system ng mga Pilipino na sinasabi nating magandang mga pagpapahalaga ng mga kababayan natin. Another question, okay, from Jude Marie. Is the transmission of faith, okay, an important faith transmission play an important role in inculcating values among children at home as well as in school? Yung faith po na sinasabi natin, no, in itself, no, ay mabuti, no, kung ang ibig nating sabihin ay yung religious faith. Wala tayong makikita na relihiyon na nagsasabi na gumawa ng masama. Lahat po ay nakasalalay sa interpretasyon ng nagpa-practice ng paniniwala sa isang relihiyon. So, kung ang paniniwala ay taliwas o ang interpretasyon sa isang paniniwala ay taliwas sa tunay na sinasabi ng relihiyon, no, maaaring magkakaroon din ito ng maiimpluwensyahan nito, no, ang pag-iisip ng sarili mong mga anak or estudyante. So ulit, no, maaaring makabubuti na merong papel, no, active na papel na ginagampanan ang mga guro, ang mga magulang, ang mga administrador ng paaralan sa paghugis ng magandang kultura, no, sa dalawang institusyon na ito, paaralan at bahay, no. Malimit ang tanong diyan, anong gagawin namin na makabubuti sa mga anak namin? Kung yan ay mahirap sagutin, no, kasi hindi ko naman masasagot ng diretsahan yan o hindi ako makapagbigay ng specifics kasi iba-iba nga yung konteksto ng mga bahay, no. Ang ibang mga magulang ay abogado, ang iba ay mga doktor, ang iba naman ay nagtitinda, ang iba naman ay nasa bahay lang, no. Ang trabaho ng mga magulang, iba-iba ang konteksto, no. Yung ibang mga magulang naman ay nasa abroad, mga kamag-anak ang nagbabantay sa anak. Kung hindi po natin masagot yung tanong kaagad, hindi agad masagot yung tanong na ano ba ang nararapat gawin, pwedeng magsimula sa tanong na ano ba ang mga hindi dapat gawin at iyon ang unang tatanggalin, no, sa mga nakakasanayan o nakakaugalian sa bahay. Babaguhin. Kung hindi nagkikita-kita, walang oportunidad na mag-usap habang naghahapunan, edi tanggalin, no, yung nakaugalian ng kanya-kanya tayong buhay, no, pag nasa bahay. Pwedeng hindi tayo sabay-sabay kumain. Magkakaroon ng bagong patakaran. Sa ganitong oras, lahat ay titigil sa kanilang ginagawa. Tayo ay magtitipon-tipon sa hapagkainan. No? At yun ay magbibigay ng maraming oportunidad para sa mga magulang na pag-usapan ang mga issues, no, na kinakaharap ng bawat miyembro ng pamilya. Ang sunod po nating katanungan ay nagmumula kay Jude Marie. Is the transmission of fake... tapos na po yan. No, kay Marina pala, sorry. Mula kay Teacher Marina, or baka parent po si Marina, is Pia Tante Tan. Sir, epekto po ba sa mga bata ang number grade? At kung mababa ang madalas nilang nakukuha na grade sa ESP? Salamat po. Maaari pong magkaroon ng hindi magandang epekto, no, ang pagkakatanggap ng mababang grado. Kaya nga nararapat lamang na nandyan ang mga guro para ipaliwanag kung bakit mababa ang grado ng estudyante. Kung ako ang tatanungin ninyo kung nagbibigay ako ng mababang grado sa mga estudyante ko, nagbibigay ako ng grado pero pinapaliwanag ko ahead of time. Kung mababa ang grado mo at hindi ka satisfied sa mababang grado, sabihin mo sa akin at hihingi ako ng ng permiso sa isa mong kaklase na mas mataas ang grado para maikumpara mo ang mga trabaho mo sa trabaho niya. Ang ibig ko pong sabihin ay hindi pwedeng parehas ang grado kung ang isang trabaho ay mas maganda kumpara sa trabaho ng isang bata o isang estudyante. Kasi hindi po makatarungan na parehas na mataas ang grado pero hindi naman parehas na maganda ang trabaho. So ang ibig ko lang pong sabihin ay makakaapekto po ang mababang grado kung hindi pinapaliwanag sa estudyante o sa bata kung bakit mababa ang kanilang grado. Maigi pong pinapaliwanag ito para maturuan din sila ng pagpapahalagang responsibility, no? Pananagutan, no? Yun yata ang tawag sa ESP, no? Isa sa mga tinuturong pagpapahalaga sa ESP, pananagutan, no? Kung mababa ang grado mo, hindi dahil binigyan ka ng mababang grado ng teacher, kundi by choice. Hindi nag-aral, no? Hindi ka siguro nag-aral by choice, no? Kagabi you could have elected to study. Kaso pinili mo na wag mag-aral. That's the reason kung bakit mababa ang grado mo. At hindi dapat ito dahilan para bumaba ang self-esteem mo. Pwedeng ganun ang to that effect, no? Yung pagkasabi. Mababa ang grado mo dahil pinili mo na hindi mag-aral. Pero pag pinili mong mag-aral, malamang, no, magkakaroon ng dahilan para tumaas ang iyong grado. Ang sunod po nating katanungan ay nagmumula, at ito na po ang huling katanungan kay Louie Quejada. What if the parents themselves do not acknowledge and take action on re-engineering the home culture, given the need to do so? How can the kids be able to acquire these holistic values? Maganda pong katanungan iyan. Paano kung wala ngang mahusay na cultural engineers sa bahay, no? Ano ang gagawin? Ano ang mangyayari nito? Siguro, no, this is the time for me to say that, totoo nga, maraming mga estudyante, no, lalo na sa public school siguro, na walang gabay, no, sa kanilang mga magulang. No, hindi natuturuan sa bahay. Malimit na complaint yan ng mga teacher. Paano matututo yan? Hindi naman tinuturuan sa bahay. Kaya nga, merong paaralan para, no, they have something to fall back on. Yung mga batang may kakulangan o salat sa gabay sa bahay, no, they should have the school to fall back on. In addition to that, they should have the media to fall back on. Dapat, no, high quality values education ang i-offer ng mga, no, ng mga iba't ibang type ng media, TV, radio, media, broadcast media, print media, iba-iba dapat, no, maganda, dapat mataas ang kalidad ng values education na ino-offer nila. Maaring hindi diretsahan yung values education na ito, pero no, nararapat lamang po na tinitingnan maigi ng ating censor authorities kung ano yung nilalaman ng mga produksyon, no, ng media outfit, dahil napapanood nga ito ng mga bata. So dalawa po ang sinasabi ko, no, na fallback. At may isa pa po, ang simbahan, no, maaaring idagdag sa mga institution na masusulingan ng mga batang walang gabay gaano, no, walang sapat na gabay sa bahay, ang paaralan, ang media, at ang simbahan. Paano na lang po kung sasabihin natin na kung tayo ay guro, paano yang matututo sa bahay walang gabay? Lalong hindi matututo kung hindi tayo masusulingan, hindi tayo masasandalan ng mga estudyante, no? Hindi tayo matatakbuhan ng mga estudyante sa paaralan. They should have, no, something to fall back on. Okay, some institutions to fall back on. And the institution, okay, to fall back on, the first one should be the school, the teachers, okay, followed by the media and the church. So, maraming salamat po. Sana ay nabigyan ko ng magandang sagot ang inyong mga katanungan. Sige, sa susunod po, no, marami pa tayong pag-uusapan tungkol sa values education. Sige po, magpapaalam na po ako.